Hello, mathematicians, and welcome to our video for task 3.12. We're going to talk about the lowest common multiple and greatest common factor of two numbers. Now, in Castleguard, which you did previously through mid-school math, you had some really low numbers like 12 and 30. A number line is kind of like a list, kind of like here. It's not super difficult to write all the factors of 12 and 30. But what if we use 132 and 460? Ooh, those are a lot bigger. And if we're talking about the lowest common multiple of those numbers, that's going to be a really big number. That's going to take a lot of time with the list. So let's talk about what is going to be easier. So we have prime factorization. Pause the video, write down these words in your notes. We are going to head right into solving this. So let me move myself up top. All right, so you'll see the prime factorization is already done for you. Woo! So all we need to do then is to write our prime factorization of 132 and 460, find the common. So I've highlighted, they both have two 2's. So we're going to write that on the line for our greatest common factor, 2 and 2. So 2 times 2 is, of course, 4. So now we're going to write our greatest common factor 4 on the line to find the lowest common multiple. Again, the big number. The factors are smaller numbers, multiples are bigger numbers. So we have 4, and then from 132 we have 3 and 11. And then from 460 we have 5 and 23. Now, this is a perfectly acceptable way to do it. You're going to get the LCM every time. But maybe you don't want to take as much time as finding the prime factorization, comparing them. Is there a better way? And yes, there is. We are going to use the cake method. So remember, we used that in a previous video. The cake method tells us, okay, we write down both numbers, and now the common factor is going to be here on the outside. So 132 divided by 2 is 66. So we write 66 underneath. 460 divided by 2 is 230. And then we can look at that and I go, oh, those are both divisible by 2. So we write 2 on the outside and then we do the division. So we have 33 and then we have 112. Now, we don't need to break these down any further because we know from above we found the GCF, the greatest common factor, was 4. And if we scroll back down here, oh, look, suddenly we've got 2 and 2 here. Oh, look, that's our GCF. We got the exact same answer. So everything that you divided by is your greatest common factor. And then if 2 times 33 times 12 equals your lowest common multiple. What? We can even check our work by going back up top. So, let me move myself over here. 33, guess what, folks? 33 is 3 times 11 is 33. And 5 times 23, can you guess what that would be? If you guessed 112, you are absolutely right. That is 112. So the cake method is a little bit easier way because you don't have to break everything down to its prime. You just have to find the GCF. All right. So now we are going to talk about how do I know when I'm looking for what? Like, the problem isn't always going to say solve for the GCF, solve for the LCM. So you'll notice GCF is when we are talking about smaller pieces. Remember, the factor is always smaller. So an example, we need to figure out how many people to invite. LCM, the lowest common multiple, we're looking at things that repeat over and over and over again, or you have to purchase something multiple times to figure it out. So again, the factor, when we're trying to break it down, multiple, we're trying to look at lots of different things again and again and again. All right, so how in the world can we use this in our math class? Great question. Glad you asked. Let's do it. So you'll see 38 plus 16. I'm not great at mental math. It's really tough for me. So LCM and GCF can help you break down the problems. So you'll see we've got our GCF, our factors. You'll notice that 2 is a factor of both 38 and 16. So I'm going to write 2 there. Well, now we can use the distributive property, and we know that 38 divided by 2 is 19, and 2 times 8 is 16. So then the problem becomes 2 times 27, and that might actually be easier to do mental math because you're just adding the same thing, and so you get to the answer 54. Now, let's look at another problem. 72 minus 18. We're going to do the same process. We're going to look and guess what? 9 is a common factor for both. So again, the distributive property comes into play because 72 divided by 9 is 8. And 18 divided by 9 is 2. So then we come up with a problem where it's 9 times 6, which I don't know about you, but I know my nines tables. That's way easier to come up with 54 than to try and do 72 minus 18. So this is not something that you have to do, but I'm just trying to show you that this is a tool, like many things we do in math, that you can do to solve these problems. Now, don't forget, on the bottom of your sheet, we went over greatest common factor and least common multiple. Figure out an example to write in each, and until next time, keep doing your math.